The sun was still dragging itself over the horizon when the recruits gathered on the dusty training ground at Fort Carson. Mornings were always cold here, biting, dry, and sharp enough to make even seasoned soldiers clench their teeth. But today felt colder, heavier. No one said it out loud, yet every trainee sensed that something different was coming. Ava Clayton, the newest recruit in Bravo Squad, tightened her ponytail and adjusted her training fatigues. She had joined the Army after finishing her degree in biomechanics, chasing a path her father never got to finish. Captain Henry Clayton had died in a rescue operation overseas, and Ava had promised herself she would someday wear the same uniform with the same honor. But honor was something the recruits around her didn't always respect, especially Derek Walsh, Rick Dawson, and Cole Masters, three men who had developed a reputation during the last 2 weeks for pushing, shoving, and intimidating anyone they thought looked weaker. And a woman stepping into a unit mid-cycle? To them, that was blood in the water. Sergeant Lauren Kendricks blew the whistle, jolting everyone to attention. Listen up. Today's training is Combat Reflex Day. That means knives, holds, submission scenario drills, everything that decides whether you walk away alive on the battlefield. A few recruits swallowed hard. And before you ask, yes, you'll be facing real pressure, real fear, and real consequences. A wicked smirk tugged at Derek's mouth. Ava caught it in the corner of her eye. She didn't react, though her pulse tightened. She wasn't afraid of training. What she feared was them. Sergeant Kendricks continued. Your instructor today will be Chief Petty Officer Ethan Ryker, SEAL Team 6, Comms, CQB, Infiltration Specialist. He has 20 years of operational experience. A murmur rippled through the group. Everyone had heard of Ryker. People said he could disarm a man with a butter knife, drop a grown Marine with 2 fingers, and spot a threat before anyone else in the room even realized something was wrong. Ava straightened. Thank God someone competent is here today. Sergeant Kendricks stepped aside. Chief Ryker appeared from the small storage room near the mat area, wearing simple training fatigues and boots that barely made a sound. His gaze swept across the squad. Calm, analytical, unreadable. But when his eyes briefly landed on Ava, there was something else there. Recognition. Not of her face, but of the tension she carried. The way she stood slightly guarded. The micro-twitch of her left shoulder. He'd seen recruits like her before, quiet, methodical, and constantly watching their surroundings because they knew someone was watching them. Good morning, Ryker said. His voice was low and steady, like someone who didn't need to shout to control a room. Today's lesson is simple. If you hesitate, you lose. If you panic, you die. The battlefield doesn't forgive delay. Ava nodded subtly. She understood that better than anyone. Ryker pointed toward the racks where dull training knives were lined up. Pair up. Light sparring first. Immediately, Derek, Cole, and Rick moved. Not toward each other, but as a unit, cornering Ava before she even reached the knives. Cole cracked his knuckles. Clayton, you're with us. Ava's shoulders tightened. We're supposed to pair in twos. Rick stepped closer, smirking. Yeah, well, we're making an exception. Derek leaned in, lowering his voice. Relax. It's training. Unless you're scared. Ava stared at them. 3 grown men acting like playground bullies in a military uniform. She wanted to walk away, but she also knew this was exactly what they wanted. Fear. Instead, Ava grabbed a training knife and said, let's just get this over with. They surrounded her on the mat like wolves circling prey. Ryker watched from across the room, arms folded. His expression didn't change, yet his eyes sharpened, tracking their movements like a hawk. Begin. Sergeant Kendricks shouted that it happened fast. Derek lunged from the front, Rick from the left, Cole from behind. Ava blocked the first strike, twisted out of the second, but she wasn't fast enough to stop the third. Cole's dull blade slashed downward, grazing the fabric at her shoulder. Not hard enough to cut her, but enough to slice a clean line through her uniform that a few recruits gasped. Ava stumbled back. Hey, watch it. Rick stepped closer, slicing the air near her waist. Whoops. Slipped. Derek laughed under his breath. Careful, Clayton. Uniform might fall off. Ava's blood boiled. Cut it out. But they didn't listen. They spread out again, circling her with narrowed eyes, knives tapping against their palms. Ryker didn't move, but his jaw twitched. Cole flicked his wrist, the dull blade slicing the lower seam of Ava's sleeve. Another tear. Rick copied him, cutting another piece of fabric near her hip. The room shifted. Recruits whispered. Some looked away. Others looked at Ryker, waiting for him to intervene, but he didn't. Not yet. Derek stepped closer, eyes scanning Ava's torn uniform. You really shouldn't be here, Clayton. You're not built for this. Ava's pulse hammered. She tightened her grip on the training knife. Back off. He didn't. Instead, Derek lifted his knife and pressed it against the fabric just below her collarbone. Lightly, mocking her, pushing the line. That was when Ryker moved. No shout. No warning. A blur point. One moment Ryker was standing across the room. The next, Derek was flat on the floor, gasping for air, Ryker's boot on his chest, and the training knife ripped cleanly out of his hand. The whole room froze. Before Rick or Cole could react, Ryker spun, delivering a palm strike to Rick's solar plexus, so precise that the man collapsed forward with a choking sound. Cole swung wildly, panic replacing arrogance, but Ryker caught his wrist midair, twisting, locking, and flipping him flat onto his stomach with a thud that echoed across the training hall. 3 men. Dropped in less than 3 seconds. Ryker stood over them, eyes burning with icy fury. Training knives are not toys, and cutting a soldier's uniform is not combat. It is harassment. The room went silent. Ryker kneeled beside Derek, his voice low and lethal. If you ever put a blade, real or training, on someone without combat necessity again, I will personally ensure you're removed from the program. Do you understand? Derek swallowed. Yes, sir. Ryker's head snapped toward Rick and Cole. You too. Rick groaned. Yes, sir. Cole nodded weakly. Ryker stood and turned to the squad. Everyone else, eyes front. They obeyed instantly. Ryker looked at Ava, but his expression softened. Clayton, front and center. Ava walked over, pulse still racing, unsure if she had done something wrong. Ryker turned to the group. Let me show you all something. He lifted Ava's arm gently, not forcefully, and pointed to the slashes on her sleeve. This is not training, he said. This is cowardice. A real warrior doesn't need numbers to win. A real warrior doesn't gang up on someone who's already outnumbered. Ava breathed slowly, grounding herself, grateful that someone finally said it. Ryker continued, but Clayton here didn't back down. And that tells me something important. He looked at her directly. You're not weak. You were outmatched. And those are different things. Ava felt something loosen in her chest. Something she had been carrying for years. The room shifted. Recruit straightened, embarrassed for staying silent earlier. Then Ryker said something that made Ava's heart skip. Clayton, grab a knife. She did. Let's see how you fight when the field is fair. He stepped back into a ready stance. Gasps erupted. You want me to spar with you? Ava asked, stunned. Yes, Ryker said simply. Because I want everyone to see what happens when someone who's been pushed finally pushes back. Ava nodded slowly, adjusting her stance. Begin, Ryker said. This time, Ava moved first. She lunged, not recklessly, but with precision. Ryker blocked her strike, nodded approvingly, and returned a controlled countermove. She dodged, pivoted, struck again. He tested her reflexes, her courage, her timing, and Ava held her ground. For the first time, the squad saw her as more than the new girl. They saw her as a fighter, sharp, resilient, unbreakable. After a few minutes, Ryker raised his hand to stop. Good. That's enough. Ava stepped back, breathing hard. Ryker leaned closer and whispered, You're better than you think. A shock of confidence shot through her. Ryker turned to the squad. This is how training works. You push each other, not tear each other down. If anyone has a problem with that, his eyes flicked toward Derek, Rick, and Cole. You can meet me on the mat. No one volunteered. Training continued, but the tone had changed. Everyone worked harder, more respectfully, more focused. Even Ava felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. During the break, several recruits approached her. Hey, Clayton, that was impressive. You held your own. Respect. You're better than all 3 of them combined. For the first time since joining the squad, she felt accepted. Ryker walked over with a bottle of water. "Good work today." "Thanks," Ava said, "for stepping in." Ryker shook his head. "You didn't need saving. You needed fairness. That's my job." She smiled. He pointed at her torn uniform. "Get that replaced." "And Clayton?" "Yes. Don't let anyone write your story for you." Ava nodded as training ended and recruits filed out. Ryker called out, "One more thing." Everyone turned. If you found value in today's lesson, go support the channel that shares stories like this. Subscribe to grow for justice. We honor discipline. We honor courage. And we honor anyone who refuses to stay silent. A few recruits laughed, but in a good way. Ava felt warmth rise in her chest. Ryker ended the session with one final line. "Real strength isn't shown by breaking others. It's shown by standing even when others try to break you." Ava walked off the mat taller than she had arrived. Stronger, steadier, no longer the quiet girl hiding in the back of formation. She had earned her place, and everyone knew it now, even the ones who had tried to tear her down.